About 500 years ago, a man predicted a lot about the 21st century and even blew the mind of the scientists of today.
I was surprised to find out that nobody had ever tried to build this. Nobody had ever tried to fly it.
I am talking about Leonardo da Vinci, famously known as the master artist. But what many don't know is that he was also an inventor far ahead of his time. So, in this video, let me show you some of his mysterious inventions that stand ahead of its era. Number 1. Mona Lisa. The first on the list is the legendary Mona Lisa. Painted by Leonardo da Vinci in the early 16th century, the Mona Lisa is arguably the most famous and recognized artwork in the world. While it was painted between 1503 and 1506, Leonardo continued to work on it as late as 1517, and some even believe that it's still incomplete. An interesting fact is that a handyman at the Louvre stole the Mona Lisa in late August 1911. This theft turned this painting into a worldwide sensation that was only known among the members of academics and artwork before that. Da Vinci used a painting technique called sfumato, in which the lines between light and shadow are blurred, and hence gives the Mona Lisa that lifelike, almost dreamy look. Some say the woman in the painting, thought to be Lisa Gherardini, seems to know a secret no one else does. Maybe that's why the smile is so mysterious. To this day, people have debated what she's thinking or feeling. What do you think she has been hiding behind her smile? Number 2, the Orithopter. The Orithopter is yet another mind-blowing invention by Leonardo da Vinci, designed to mimic birds' flight. Da Vinci was fascinated by flight and spent years studying birds, bats, and even kites to meet his goal of helping humans fly. In fact, the machine's wings stretched over 33 feet and had pointed ends like a bat's wings. This clearly shows just how closely he studied these creatures. The frame of the machine was to be made from light materials like pine and raw silk to keep it sturdy but airborne. The Orithopter had wings driven by pedals and pulley, and it flapped like a bird, with the pilot lying flat inside. Da Vinci believed this design could make humans soar, but unfortunately, it never flew. This flying machine might have flown once it was in the air, but humans simply aren't strong enough to flap wings like a bird. However, the Orithopter had a significant contribution to aviation history, as people were inspired by his work, and engineers created small flying machines that copied his ideas. Number 3, the parachute. Apart from flying, Leonardo also thought about how to fall safely from the sky, and in the late 15th century, he designed one of the world's earliest versions of a parachute.
I was surprised to find out that nobody had ever tried to build this. Nobody had ever tried to fly it.
It was a pyramid-shaped frame made of wood that was covered in tightly woven linen. It was 23 feet tall, with the idea being that the large surface area would slow a person's fall and let them glide gently to the ground. But again, Da Vinci's parachute design wasn't tested in his lifetime, so the idea stayed in his notebooks until the year 2000. That's when daredevil Adrian Nichols decided to put Da Vinci's invention to the test. Luckily, against all odds, it worked. Nichols even said it gave him a smoother ride than a modern parachute. Though today's parachutes look very different, Leonardo's design was a huge leap forward in understanding how humans could survive a fall from great heights. He was truly ahead of his time. Number 4, helical aerial screw. The list of Da Vinci's groundbreaking inventions doesn't stop yet. There's another concept of a fascinating flying machine called the aerial screw that was sketched in the late 1480s while he was employed by Ludovico Sforza, Duke of Milan. Leonardo described his design, saying that if the screw were made from linen, treated with starch, and spun quickly, it would spiral into the air and rise. The helicopter was over 15 feet in diameter and made from reed, linen, and wire. It would be powered by 4 men standing on a platform, turning cranks to rotate the screw. But the materials were not light and strong enough at the time, and there was no way to prevent the craft from spinning uncontrollably. However, a drone based on his design was created in 2022, paying tribute to his genius. Number 5, machine gun. Leonardo da Vinci's machine gun design was actually his vision for a faster-firing cannon. Unlike the traditional slow and bulky ones, he envisioned a lightweight and easy-to-maneuver cannon. His sketches show a fan-shaped spread of small barrels that could fire in multiple directions at once. One of his most famous designs featured 33 short-barreled guns mounted on a cart arranged in 3 rows of 11. This setup allowed one row to fire while another row was cooling and a third was being reloaded, creating near-continuous fire. Leonardo also imagined a triangular arrangement of guns, giving greater distribution of firepower across a wide area. Number 6. Diving equipment. Did you know that Da Vinci designed an early version of scuba gear? Yes, you heard that right. While in Venice, the water city, around 1500, he designed diving equipment to help launch sneak attacks on enemy ships. His scuba suit was made of leather, with a bag-like mask that covered the diver's head. 2 cane tubes attached to the mask allowed air to flow from a cork diving bell floating on the surface. Leonardo's design even had a valve-operated balloon that could be inflated.
Unfortunately, the design, complete with breathing hose and glass goggles, wasn't needed at the time and would only find itself submerged in planning stages.
Or deflated to help the diver easily rise or sink. To make the suit even more practical, it included a pouch for the diver to urinate in during long underwater missions. He envisioned divers using the scuba gear to sabotage enemy ships by cutting holes in their hull. Although the equipment was never actually built during his time, Leonardo's design was truly practical. His sketches for this suit were discovered in his Codex Atlanticus, which is a collection of his drawings and notes, but they were published long after his death. Number 7. The armored tank. Little do people know, Leonardo made a significant contribution to warfare technology too. For instance, Da Vinci's armored tank was the precursor to modern tanks that could move in any direction. It was packed with light cannons, arranged in a 360-degree layout. The tank's platform was covered by a large protective shell, reinforced with metal plates, slanted to deflect enemy fire. On top, there was a sighting turret to help guide the tank and coordinate its firepower. Inside, 8 men would turn cranks to power the wheels and move the tank. Interestingly, Da Vinci considered using horses, but decided they'd be too unpredictable inside the vehicle. With its domed shape, it could deflect arrows and bullets, making it almost invincible on the battlefield. However, there was one flaw. Da Vinci's original design had the gears set up in a way that would make the tank spin in circles and make forward motion impossible. Some say he did this on purpose, as Da Vinci was known to oppose war. Despite this flaw, this armored tank was truly a revolutionary idea. What do you think about the flaw? Was it intentional? Number 8. Paddle boat. If we talk about one of the first paddle boats ever designed, it should include the one by Leonardo da Vinci. He designed this boat in the late 15th century. The paddle boat used large, wheel-like paddles to move through water. Sailors would work foot pedals to turn the paddles, and Leonardo used gears and cogwheels to multiply the power of each pedal stroke, which would make the boat faster. Since Leonardo was always inspired by nature, he shaped the boat's hull to mimic the sleek, tapered form of a fish to allow it to cut through water more easily. The sketches were extremely detailed and showed the mechanics of how the boat would function. Number 9. The Last Supper. The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci is one of the world's most famous paintings, created between 1495 and 1498. It's a massive mural that measures 15 by 29 feet and is found in the convent of Santa Maria delle Grazie in Milan, Italy. This painting shows the exact moment from the Bible.
One of the most notable features of the work is its composition, which represents Jesus surrounded by his disciples.
When Jesus reveals that one of his disciples will betray him, Leonardo captured the emotion in each disciple's face and gesture to make the scene feel alive. You can see shock, confusion, and even guilt. You can see Judas, the disciple who betrays Jesus, pulling away in the painting. What's also amazing is how Leonardo used perspective. The lines of the painting all lead to Jesus in the center and make him the visual focus. The Last Supper was commissioned by Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, as part of a larger renovation project for the church and convent. And to it, Leonardo's unpredictable work schedule and constant changes He used materials that allowed for easy adjustments, like tempera on gesso, pitch, and mastic. Number 10. The Giant Crossbow. Among many other inventions of Leonardo da Vinci was the Giant Crossbow. It was essentially a psychological weapon that was meant to terrify enemies rather than just cause destruction. It measured about 27 yards across and mounted on 6 wheels, and instead of firing arrows, it would launch large stones or flaming bombs.
Such talented artist and skilled inventor like Da Vinci certainly did not draw it like this only as a coincidence together with a very weird construction.
The crossbow's flexible wooden bow and crank mechanism made it powerful. Soldiers would pull back the bow using a crank, load the ammunition, and fire by knocking out a pin with a mallet. Da Vinci's giant crossbow drawings are believed to date between 1483 and the early 1490s, during his time in Milan. While there's debate about why Leonardo went to Milan, some think he sought work as a painter and later learned of Ludovico Sforza's military ambitions. Number 11. The Robot Knight. This mechanical knight was designed in 1495 and built to move independently. It could sit, stand, raise its arms, and even move its head. This mechanical marvel used gears, pulleys, and cables to mimic human movement. The Robot Knight was meant for entertainment, possibly created for a grand celebration hosted by the Duke of Milan. Though no full sketches of the knight have been found, fragments of Da Vinci's notes allowed modern roboticist Mark Rosheim to build a prototype in 2002. And lucky enough, it worked. Da Vinci's creation is now considered one of the first robots ever conceived. Number 12. Bicycle. Leonardo da Vinci's connection to the bicycle is a topic of debate. In one of his notebooks, there is a sketch of a bicycle-like machine with 2 wheels, pedals, and a chain. This sketch was discovered in the late 1960s. The sketch is sometimes credited to one of Da Vinci's students and shows a design very similar to the modern bicycle that is complete with a chain-driven system to turn the wheel. This is wild because the first practical bicycle wasn't built until the 1800s. If the sketch is real, it means that Da Vinci was hundreds of years ahead. However, there's some controversy. Some experts think the sketch might have been added to Da Vinci's notebooks much later as a hoax, and they also argue that the poor quality suggests it wasn't by Da Vinci himself. What do you think? Number 13. Anemometer. Leon Battista Alberti invented the pressure plate anemometer in 1450. This device had a flat plate that was suspended so the wind could push it against a scale, showing the wind speed. Leonardo da Vinci also created an anemometer. It was shaped like a harp. This was a nod to his musical talent. His design was based on Alberti's and made between 1483 and 1486. Da Vinci hoped his device would help people understand the direction of the wind before flying. He wrote notes alongside his sketches. He stated that it could measure how far the wind travels in an hour and that a clock was needed for time. His anemometer featured an arched frame with a rectangular piece of wood hanging inside. When the wind blew, the wood would rise, and a scale printed on the frame allowed users to measure the wind's force based on how high the wood lifted. Later, innovations included the tube anemometer by William Henry Dines in 1892 and the 4-cup anemometer by Dr. John Thomas Romney Robinson in 1845. Number 14. Self-propelled cart. Long before cars ever existed, Leonardo da Vinci designed a self-propelled cart. This cart could move on its own. Many people consider this cart to be one of the first robots. This self-propelled cart was just one of many inventions Leonardo da Vinci created that dealt with transportation. But this cart was created specially for theatrical performances. It was powered by coiled springs and could steer and brake. When the brake was released, the cart would roll forward. Its steering could be set to go straight or turn at certain angles. For a long time, scholars struggled to understand how his design worked, and they finally had their big break in 2006. Italy's Institute and Museum of the History of Science built a working model based on his drawing. To everyone's surprise, the cart functioned just as he intended. Some experts even noted its resemblance to the Mars rover. This is just another example of how advanced Da Vinci's ideas were for his time. Number 15. Codex on the flight of birds. Leonardo da Vinci was not just a great artist, he was also a pioneer in many areas like engineering and aeronautics. He wrote down his innovative ideas in thousands of pages called codices. One important work is the Codex on the flight of birds. It was created between 1505 and 1506. This small collection of 18 pages focuses on how birds fly and includes ideas for flying machines. This laid the foundation for modern aviation. The Codex begins with observations of bird flight and suggests ways for humans to fly. Although Leonardo tried to build flying machines, he wasn't very successful. After his death in 1519, Leonardo's manuscripts were passed around. They were often stolen or sold. The Codex on the flight of birds changed hands many times before being donated to the Biblioteca Ambrosiana in Milan in 1637. In the late 18th century, Napoleon took it to France, but in 1893, Theodore Sabachnikov gifted it to Queen Margherita, who then placed it in the Biblioteca Reale in Turin. Number 16. Vitruvian Man. Leonardo da Vinci's drawing, known as the Vitruvian Man, has become an iconic image. But why did it become so important? It is because it symbolizes ideas like culture, genius, and humanism far beyond its original purpose as a notebook illustration in the 15th century. This drawing was created around 1490. It measures about 13.5 by 9.75 inches and shows a male figure standing with arms and legs outstretched. It's inscribed within a circle and a square. Leonardo based this on Vitruvius, an ancient Roman architect who described ideal human proportions. The simplicity of the drawing emphasizes its informative nature. Leonardo's work reflects the Renaissance belief in perfect proportions. This belief was inspired by classical ideas. He aimed to connect human form to nature and saw the human body as a microcosm of the universe. The Vitruvian Man is not just an artwork, but a thoughtful exploration of proportion and harmony in design. It is housed in the Galleria dell'Accademia in Venice. Number 17. Mechanical Lion. Leonardo da Vinci created timeless masterpieces like The Last Supper and the Mona Lisa. As we have seen, he also created sketches for innovative devices such as a self-propelled cart, diving gear, and a parachute. One of his interesting designs was a mechanical lion. It was commissioned by Pope Leo X for King Francois I in the early 1500s. The lion was meant to walk and place flowers at the king's feet for entertainment. Although the original lion by Da Vinci is lost, a new version based on his designs is now on display at the Italian Cultural Institute in Paris. This wooden lion stands 6 feet 7 inches tall and is nearly 10 feet long. More than 500 years later, the guy is still making headline. Number 18. The Colossus. For this particular project, Da Vinci was commissioned by Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, in 1482 to create the largest horse statue in the world, and he actually did. Da Vinci designed a magnificent bronze horse and built a clay model, but the task of bronzing it required 80 tons of bronze. He had a solution for this too. Leonardo invented new techniques for molding.
He planned to cast the 80-ton Colossus in one solid piece of bronze, a feat unimaginable at the time,
and an oven that could handle the intense heat required to melt the metal. Unfortunately, just as Leonardo was ready to begin casting in 1494, King Charles V of France invaded Italy. The Duke of Milan offered the bronze to the French to make cannons, and this halted the project indefinitely. It was so devastating for Da Vinci that he wrote, "I will speak of the horse no more." Number 19. Catapult. Sometime during the 1480s, Leonardo da Vinci was bored. So what did he do? He designed 2 original catapults using a leaf spring system, the single-arm and double-arm catapults. Instead of a traditional bow, his design featured a rotating drum. It increased the throwing arm's speed without excessive force, much like pulling a ripcord. The single-arm catapult used a long post in a drum to set the throwing arm. A cup at the end held the projectile securely, and a ratchet system locked it in place to prevent accidental launches. The double-arm catapult was a version which employed a worm gear to adjust the dual arms. This improved leverage while safely managing tension. However, this was not without its own set of challenges. Challenges included creating durable steel leaf springs, high production costs, and the extreme tension on the swing arm. It's unclear if Da Vinci's catapults were ever built or used, but you have to admit the creativity is off the charts. Number 20. Great Continuous Organ. For the first time, Leonardo da Vinci's Great Continuous Organ was heard at Palazzina Liberty in Milan. Its warm, ancient sound resembles a flute and plays notes smoothly. The organ features a unique pedal mechanism that allows continuous play without lifting hands from the keyboard. Experts from Centro Studi Leonardo III reconstructed it based on Da Vinci's original drawings. They added to the world's most complete collection of his musical instruments at the museum in Piazza della Scala. Culture counselor Filippo del Corno pointed out that music connected Da Vinci to Milan. Number 21. Viola Organista. The Viola Organista is another one of Leonardo da Vinci's remarkable instruments. This instrument was featured in his Codex Atlanticus. It's a collection of his sketches and writings. Although he never built it, the Viola Organista combines elements of the organ, harpsichord, and viola da gamba. Its unique sound comes from strings that press against rotating wheels covered in horsehair. This mechanism creates a continuous tone that standard string players can't achieve due to the need for pauses in playing. It wasn't until 2013 that Polish instrument maker Sławomir Zubrzycki finally brought this instrument to life. He spent over 5,000 hours on the project. At its unveiling in Krakow, Zubrzycki expressed hope that Da Vinci would be pleased with the result. I don't know about him, but we are certainly pleased. The Viola Organista is beautifully decorated with a gold leaf quote by Hildegard of Bingen. Holy prophets and scholars, immersed in the sea of arts, both human and divine, dreamt up a multitude of instruments to delight the soul. Quite fitting, don't you think? Number 22. Revolving Bridge. In addition to musical instruments, Leonardo da Vinci also designed a wooden swing bridge. This bridge allowed friends to cross a river while being able to swing back to keep enemies away. It functions like a gate, letting people and vehicles cross rivers or canals. And when boats need to pass, the bridge closes and stops traffic with barriers and signals. Most swing bridges rotate 90 degrees, but this one could rotate 45 degrees, allowing boats to pass without obstruction. It was made for Duke Sforza. Another cool feature of Da Vinci's bridge is that it could be easily packed and transported for armies on the move. It would swing across a stream or moat, letting soldiers cross with ease. The bridge had wheels, a rope and pulley system for quick setup and transport, and a counterweight for balance. Da Vinci described it as light yet rugged. Number 23. City of the Future. Want proof of Da Vinci's innovative thinking? While people around him were busy lounging about, this man was designing his ideal city. Talk about ambition. He came up with this idea after the plague devastated Milan, killing nearly a third of its population. Leonardo wanted to create a city that was more connected, with better communication, services, and sanitation to help prevent future diseases. His city design included a network of canals for trade and sewage. It had lower areas with canals for workers and travelers, and upper areas with wide roads for the wealthy. These broad roads were likely a response to Milan's narrow streets, which contributed to the spread of the plague. As an artist, Da Vinci dreamed of a beautiful city with elegant buildings featuring large arches and pillars. He also included details like special stables for horses and fresh air vents in buildings. However, since his design was so grand and required rebuilding the entire city, it never became a reality. Number 24. Triple-barrel cannon. Leonardo da Vinci lived in a time of war. He was born after the 100 Years' War and witnessed the start of the Spanish-Italian Wars. So, it makes sense that he was a self-taught weapons designer. He aimed to create more effective ways to defeat enemies. His notebooks include over 10 designs for siege weapons and cannons. Notable examples include his three-barreled cannon. Da Vinci focused on making weapons that caused maximum damage while being easier to use. His triple-barrel cannon featured a simple gun carriage with 3 front-loading guns that could be adjusted for accuracy. This allowed soldiers to fire 3 shots at once without needing extra help. At that time, cannons were heavy and stationary. This made them slow to reload. Da Vinci's design was lightweight and could deliver significant firepower quickly. He often included gunpowder in his designs. He predicted it would become important in future warfare. Number 25. Accurate clock. Okay, so before there is any confusion, no, Da Vinci did not invent the clock, but he did design a more accurate one. By the 15th century, clocks that showed hours and minutes were improving.
Design of Da Vinci's clock utilizes his understanding of physics and mechanics.
But the clock in Florence, where Leonardo lived, still only had an hour hand. Leonardo's clock featured 2 separate mechanisms, one for minutes and one for hours. Each mechanism included carefully connected weights, gears, and harnesses, and it also had a dial to track moon phases. His key innovation was using springs instead of weights to operate the clock. This made it more precise. He even described materials for its construction, like diamonds and rocks. In the end, Leonardo's better timekeeping helped him have more time for his many projects. A win is a win. Right, guys, this is all we had for you today. Which one of these innovations would you like to get your hands on? Comment down below and let us know. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next video. Goodbye.